Hey guys. In today's video, I thought I would tell you about my personal favorite easy houseplants. I do have other favorite houseplants too, but I'm trying to stick to more of the, well, not uncommon, but not as talked about easy varieties of plants. Of course we have Monstera and Golden Pothos and ZZ, but I'm trying to throw in some other plant variety into the easy houseplant mix. And some of my personal favorites that I have in my collection and I really enjoy taking care of and never really worry about because they're so low maintenance. So yeah, before we get into that, there are a few things to keep in mind as far as easy houseplants go. First, we need to make sure we're getting a plant for the right environment. No houseplant is going to be easy if it's living in the wrong environment. So if you have a low light corner, a high light loving plant isn't really going to be easy living there. That's just the way it is, and vice versa. Number two thing to keep in mind, for a plant to be easy, we need to have a healthy specimen to begin with. So of course it's really fun to rehab plants, but if you're looking for something easy, get a healthy plant to begin with in as little stress as possible, one without pests, one with a healthy root system, and with no other issues going on with the plant. Otherwise, it's not going to be as low maintenance and easy as I'm claiming them to be. On that note, a huge thank you to the sponsor of this video, Bloomscape. Bloomscape delivers full-grown, home-ready plants to your door. They offer plants of all shapes and sizes, even up to 5 feet tall. And when you're shopping for your plant on their website, they can be sorted by size, difficulty, light level, pet friendliness, and also if the plant's an air purifier. Bloomscape plants are pre-potted and shipped directly to your door. Their packaging is 100% recycled and does prevent damage during transit, which is extremely important in maintaining plant health. Each plant arrives with a care card with all the plant care information you'll need in case you're a little unsure of how to go about caring for your new planties. Like I said before, it's extremely important that we have a healthy specimen to begin with. If a plant isn't in tip-top shape, it's not going to be easy to care for. And you know these plants are arriving in tip-top shape. They are kept in a greenhouse and cared for by plant experts until the moment they ship. They have a lot of beautiful options available for order on their website, including fiddle leaf figs, Monstera, prayer plants, Sansevieria. I decided to order a bird of paradise and ponytail palm from them, and I will talk a little bit more on those later on in the video. If you use the link down in the description box, you will get 20% off your first order to transform your home, get some new plants. And with all of that being said, let's get into the list of my favorite easy houseplants. There's a lot of them. Let's go. Plant number one on the list is a bird of paradise. This bird of paradise I did actually get from Bloomscape. The reason this is the top of my favorite easy houseplants list is it's very tolerant. If you accidentally overwater it, it's going to be really forgiving, as well as if you underwater it. So either way you kind of sway, if you're an overwaterer or an underwaterer, this one is going to be super forgiving for you. And it has a really beautiful shape. Also is very tolerant of a lot of different lighting conditions. I wouldn't give this one anything less than medium indirect light, but any of the higher lighting it gets, it's going to really enjoy. So of course, the more lighting it gets, the more you're going to have to water it, and vice versa. And then also the more light it gets, the faster it tends to grow in my experience. That's why bird of paradise is number one on the list. And it is also a very beautiful plant, very shapely. Highly recommend a bird of paradise if you're looking for something easy to keep. The next plant on my list is a ponytail palm. This is a really fun plant. I don't know, I love the chunky stem. I did also get this plant from Bloomscape. This plant can also do well in a lot of different lighting requirements. In my experience, I found it does prefer a bit of higher, indirect light, but it can also do well in lower light. It just kind of comes back to that sliding scale. More light equals more water, less light equals less water. So just kind of pay attention to what kind of lighting it's getting and adjust your watering to that. But this one is another very easy plant. It's very beautiful and also super unique from the shape of a lot of other plants, which I personally really look for in easy house plants. I do like to have a variety of different looks of plants, and this looks like my knobby head if I were to tie it up in a ponytail. So, oh, and I will also say, you probably will notice these little tags on majority of these plants. These are bamboo little name tags. I've been slowly but surely adding to all the plants in my collection so I can remember their names a bit better. I will link these in the description box if you want to pick some up for yourself. There is the ponytail palm. Highly recommend. One of my favorites. Next up are Philodendron erubescens. Erubescens. I don't know how to say it, but this kind of philodendron variety, this one is actually a dark lord, so it isn't as easy to come by, but I also have experience with the green and red emerald varieties as well, and they are very, very easy. Right now I have this guy living in water. This is such a low maintenance plant. Pretty much wherever you put this plant, it's going to do well. If you put it in low light, it'll grow a little bit more slowly, but it's still going to grow for you and it'll probably stay happy. And again, it is also very, very forgiving of over or under watering. Yeah, if you make a little bit of a mistake here or there, it's going to be fine and it's going to continue growing. Most philodendron plants do already grow really quickly, but these erubescens ones I have found grow even more quickly than my hanging philodendron plants. Especially if you give this guy a moss pole, it's going to do really well, but it doesn't necessarily need it. Yeah, I do keep this in a low light corner. Philodendron erubescens. Coral fire aloe. Other than like the medicinal purpose of an aloe vera, a traditional aloe vera plant, this coral fire aloe is my favorite aloe. My favorite kind of aloe because I think it's really, really beautiful. It's very easy. Of course, it's on this list. I don't need to be so redundant about it. These are all easy plants. But what I like about this one is it does have really cool colorations. You can see it kind of has the dark green, almost bluish, like color. And then the little teeth things on the ends of the aloe are a bright red orangey color, which I think is really, really cool. This plant puts out babies like nobody's business. This is my highest baby producing plant, so that's really fun. And what I like about this plant is it's vocal. You guys know how much I love vocal plants, and this is definitely one of them. So how this one kind of speaks to its owner is these little thingies, little tingies, if we're gonna be scientific, curl up like this, like the edges will get closer and closer together. They'll curl up. I don't even know if you can tell what I'm saying because I'm not very good at words. If it's starting to, oh, like here you can see it's kind of curling on the end. That'll start to happen once it's thirsty. So yeah, if you notice that happening, give it some water. It'll be good to go for quite some time. I go probably 3 weeks between watering this guy. It's very, very drought tolerant. And since this plant like speaks and it is so drought tolerant, so even if it talks to you a little bit and it starts to curl, if even like the whole thing curls, and then you decide to water it, you put it off for so long that the whole thing is curly and then you water it. I've done that once or twice. The plant is going to be just fine. So yeah, keep it in a well-draining mix and you're really not going to have any problems with this plant that I can foresee unless you're doing something crazy with it, but I highly doubt that. So yeah, coral fire aloe, Hoya PUBICALYX, my #1 favorite Hoya variety, just because it is so low maintenance and fast growing, which I love in a plant. The faster growing plants, the better in my opinion. Yeah, I really do love this plant. I think it's so cool. I mean, look at that stem. I don't know if you can even see it, like twists around each other for support. It supports its kin. What? Okay, anyway, whew. If you're wanting to get into Hoya, this is a very, very easy one. Wow, look at how splashy that leaf is. So cute. Doesn't need watered as frequently as some of the other Hoya varieties need, in my experience, and also it is a little bit more tolerant of lower light conditions and it'll continue pushing out growth. I honestly haven't had this one bloom for me ever the entire time I've had it, but again, I've had it in a little bit lower light situation. So I guess if you're wanting it to bloom for you, maybe keep it a little bit higher. If you're wanting to get into the world of Hoya, this is a variety I highly, highly recommend. I of course couldn't do a favorite easy houseplant video without talking about my giant peace lily sensation. It's a good one. So this baby, I actually keep sitting in a bowl inside of this planter, and I just fill the bowl with water, sucks up what it needs as it needs it, and it has done really well. It does have some brown tips, but it is what it is. I live in a dry climate. I guess if brown tips bother you, maybe this isn't a good one, but it is one of my favorites. So yeah, I'd say this guy prefers low to medium, bright, indirect light. As long as you don't overwater this guy, it's going to be just fine. So me personally, I do the bottom water method. If you're not a bottom waterer, then a great way to tell that this guy is thirsty is once it droops a bit. So the leaves will droop. You'll know it when you see it. Then you can go ahead and water, and yeah, it'll do well with that. So that's how I've taken care of this guy its whole life that I've had it in my collection. And I definitely recommend you give Peace Lily a go, especially the giant varieties like this. They are so fun. So I'm actually really surprised more people don't talk about this plant when they talk about easy plants. I guess it's kind of a weird one. So if you're one for traditional plants, this may not be the best option for you, but fun fact, after my grandma gave me a cutting from her white butterfly syngonium, I did more research into plants, and these Marimo moss balls are actually what made me super excited to get into plants after that initial cutting. So I did a lot of research on them, scoured the internet to find them. Basically, all these guys need is low light and cold water. As long as you're keeping them in low light and keeping their water from getting too hot, these are going to be just fine for you. You can give them as much care as you want to give them. So it is recommended you kind of stir their water every once in a while to help them keep their round shape. But honestly, I did that in the beginning, but in the last while, I haven't really kept up on it, and they've done fine. They are extremely slow growing though. Yeah, I mean, you can give these as much care as you need. Every once in a while, I will actually put some ice cubes in here and I guess top the water off from the fridge. I'm going to do that now. But yeah, these are probably the easiest plants to keep, if you ask me, like #1 easiest plant of all time. So where you can find these, I got mine from a local like boutique plant shop, like, you know, one of those smaller little plant shops. You can also get these at most pet stores that sell like aquariums and aquarium pets and supplies. Marimo moss balls, they are very fun and very cute, if you ask me. Gulp, 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 gulp. Oh, ew, it actually got in my mouth. I'm gonna get some weird disease. Okay, bye. And I have two different little sizes. So this is the big boy and this is the baby boy. And they're so cute. I love them so much. They're fuzzy. Next up is my favorite easy plant for those that love the look of Maranta plants, but maybe not the fussiness of them. So Stromanthe plants, in my experience, have been very easy to care for. I have this Stromanthe. I think this is called something star. Galaxy star? I don't know, it's a Stromanthe variety of some sort. And then I also have a trio star, and I have found them to be pretty easy, low maintenance care plants. And they kind of do the same like folding up thing at night where that like Maranta prayer plants do, but they're a little bit easier to care for. I think they're easier than Maranta plants because the leaves are thicker. So most Maranta varieties are like paper thin leaves, but these ones are a little bit thicker, so it's not as easy to like burn them to a crisp. I mean, every once in a while mine gets a burnt tip, but not too bad. I guess the one thing to mention about this plant, it doesn't like direct light and it doesn't like getting like too hot or too cold, but in terms of temperature, like regular house temperature is going to be just fine as long as it's not getting any direct sunlight. So yeah, if you notice your leaves are kind of curling, like really curling, from the tips, it's going to be a temperature issue in my experience. Does really well, give it indirect light. And I love it a lot. Getting some new leaves here. Another one back here. So it's a fun one. Next up on my list is a Philodendron Brazil. And of course, like regular Hartley Philodendron are easy care as well. The reason the Brazil is one of my favorites is because it does have variegation, and from my experience keeping a bunch of plants, a whole bunch of different varieties of plants, plants with variegation are typically a little bit more difficult, generally, whatever, a little bit more difficult care-wise than their non-variegated counterparts. But the Philodendron Brazil is an exception to that. I find this to be equally as easy to care for as a regular green heart leaf philodendron, except it just has the added flair of some variegation. Lots of color going on with this. So that's why it's in my top favorite plants. It can tolerate higher light, it can tolerate lower light. Keep mine on an east facing window, but again, can do higher light, can do lower light, and you get some cool variegation going on. So the more light it gets, the more light, like the more light colored the leaves become. This faces the window. This kind of grows away from the window. So that's why this is a little bit darker than this. So just when you're finding your placement, kind of decide if you're wanting your plant to be a little bit darker colored. I prefer the darker color as opposed to the lighter. And the last plant I'm going to be talking about today, oh, there's some dry leaves. That's okay, it happens. It's a SENECIO MACROGLOSSUS. The one I have is the variegated variety, but there's also a non-variegated variety as well. This is a very easy, oh, it's also known as wax ivy. This is very, very easy, especially if you love the look of regular ivy like I do, but it's not a plant that does well under your care. I've tried with so many different ivy plants, none of them like me. So the wax ivy is the way to go for me. It's fast growing, succulent, and the way you tell it needs watered is the bottom leaves are going to feel like really soft. This guy could actually go for some water. I actually need to repot this one, but I'm just kind of putting it off. So that's a little bonus as well. It can survive being a little bit root bound. Are there roots coming out of the bottom? Nah, not yet. It's fine. It does need a bit higher light levels. Like I have this on an east facing window, and that's probably the absolute lowest lighting I would give this guy. If it's getting any less lighting than that, this thing is kind of twisting around my whole bathroom. So you can see these newer leaves don't have the pink tint to them, but if it's getting adequate lighting, it's going to turn a bit like hot pinkish purplish. I wouldn't give it any lower lighting than what this plant has because I do personally really, really like the look of the purple tinged foliage. So higher light, it's going to get that purplish pinkish hue. Lower light, it's going to look like this and not. Keep that in mind as you're placing this plant in your house and maybe give it somewhere to climb. I didn't, and it's going crazy. It's gonna be a bit of a pain in the butt to untangle once I repot it, but you know what? It is what it is. I love this plant. SENECIO MACROGLOSSUS or wax ivy. Why don't more people talk about this plant? If you have this plant, tell me you agree with me. Do you agree with me? Because this is like so underrated. This isn't an underrated houseplants video, but this plant is underrated. Do you agree? Those are all of my favorite easy care houseplants that I'm going to be talking about in this video. I could go on and on talking about my favorite easy plants. I really, really could, but I think these are like the best of the best as far as my favorites go. But I would love to hear your list of favorite plants as well. So please leave a comment down below telling me which easy houseplants are your personal favorite and why. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Kai was supposed to be napping while I filmed this video, but I think he wanted to say hi because he just screamed the entire time. So tell him hi. You have their attention.